Mr. Darryl David.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the National Library Board, or NLB, can trace its roots to Sir Stamford Raffles, who in 1823 started a small collection of books in the Raffles Library. Now, while the Raffles Library was an exclusive book club that limited its access and membership to the elite, the NLB now serves all residents in Singapore through its 26 public libraries and national archives. As part of the process of preserving our national heritage and identity, the National Library Act mandated that 2 copies of every Singapore publication made available for sale or distribution should be deposited with the National Library for the purpose of posterity. This was mentioned by Minister earlier on. Now, to date, close to 1.3 million items have been archived, and a vast majority, if not all, of these items are in the form of physical hard copy publications, such as books, magazines, or written papers. These materials are invaluable in providing us with records of how our society's narratives and discourses have evolved over the years, and how such narratives have shaped and continue to shape our community, our society, and indeed our country. In 1995, the Library Review Committee identified technology as a game changer that will disrupt the operations of libraries. In order for libraries to remain relevant and continue to serve the needs of our nation, the committee recommended that NLB embrace technology and consider how technology could be used to promote and enhance the establishment of Singapore as an international information hub. The committee's recommendations were prescient, as technology has indeed changed the way information is published, disseminated, and stored. As more information gets published online, and with physical copies of books giving way to electronic publications, the process of archiving information becomes challenging. We need to re-examine how we can continue in our quest to preserve parts of our history and identity in the digital age, or risk social amnesia, where important electronic information is lost due to the lack of means to archive them. As Minister mentioned earlier, NLB currently relies on 2 main ways to archive online content. First, publishers and authors can voluntarily deposit electronic copies of their publications with NLB. Second, NLB would seek the explicit content from owners of websites to take a snapshot of their sites and archive those snapshots in a restricted access database. Now, both methods can be cumbersome and laborious, often yielding results that are not so proportionate to the effort that is put in. So I agree with the proposed changes to the Act that will empower NLB to archive online materials more expeditiously and facilitate the records-keeping process. One of the key benefits of the amendments is to allow NLB to create a more complete picture about online discourses, especially those that shape social or political narratives. Now, the open nature of the Internet allows for more pluralistic expressions of opinions and views. With more conversations taking place on online platforms like blogs, websites, forums, and social media, it makes sense for us as a nation to archive those conversations so that our future generations can gain access to important records about how the social or political landscape has been shaped by the generations before them. Now, while most people would agree that we need to preserve websites and digital materials for records and posterity, we need to consider several aspects of this practice. First, with new websites and digital content being published or created daily, the amount of information that NLB needs to manage could be increasingly large. With such a lot of information, how would NLB ensure that the information is stored securely while yet remaining publicly accessible? And while the Act has made provision for the archival information to be made accessible, can we consider easing the rules of how these archived content could be accessed and used so that more people can benefit from them? Secondly, while NLB is vested with the authority to take digital snapshots of websites, and publishers of online content are legally obliged to provide NLB with a copy of the e-publication free of protection and restrictions on access, we need to be cognizant that these publishers continue to hold the copyrights to their publications. NLB, in this instance, needs to clarify and explain the boundaries of public and private copyrights and how it intends to protect private copyright and IP when digital copies of such e-publications are made publicly accessible. Mr. Speaker, sir, the increase in technology and its use has intensified the shift from traditional print media to online digital content, and the increase in reliance on online platforms to disseminate information means that the electronic and digital universe will become an increasingly important space where much conversation, dialogue, and other expressions of thought will take place. Such expressions of thought are important reflections of our community, and I agree with the amendments to the Act that will allow such e-publications and websites to be archived. I thus end my speech in support of the bill. Thank you.